quick hacks, we're here for what actually lasts. In a world chasing clicks and quick hacks, we're here for what actually lasts. This is the long game, where PR meets relationship marketing. Real talk, real leaders, and real results. We're cutting through the noise to show how credibility, connection, and consistency builds brands that endure. So whether you're an overwhelmed digital marketer, a business owner trying to stand out, or a thought leader ready to just level up, welcome to the long game. Because building something that lasts takes heart. So let's welcome your host, Jeremy Knopf and Jessica Suter. Let's go. Yay! Hello, and happy Tuesday and Christmas Eve. We are here for the last episode of the long game. Kind of bittersweet for 2025. Don't worry though, we'll be back in 2026. But here with my awesome co-host, Jeremy Knopf, and kicking this off with, while we're all going to be hosting events or attending events, hosting this last long game event and live show with the one and only Phil Mershon, talking about why the smartest leaders treat events as relationship engines, creating experiences that convert moments into momentum. Phil Mershon, he has had an impact on my life like no other. One, he is the director of experiences at Social Media Marketing World, which inspired me to launch Social Media Week Lima and do it the way that we do, with creating moments that have impact. I'm going to let him share how he masters this in just a moment. But before we bring him on, welcome all of you. Welcome, Jeremy. Hope you're feeling better. I know you were under the weather this past weekend, so glad to have you here as well. And let's bring on Phil. Hey, Phil.
Hello.
How you doing,
for that intro. It makes me a little bit sentimental to hear you tell that story.
I know. I've had you at Social Media Week Lima. I've met you at Social Media Marketing World. I just am an admirer of all the things that you do.
S'mores. That's the word that comes to mind with moments and Jessica.
I am the s'mores person.
Yes.
What is this s'mores reference about?
Okay, so at Social Media Marketing World, I was amongst a sea of samesies, as I like to say. And when I came from Ohio, where no one understood what social media marketing was all about, when in 2013, I think was the first year, Social Media Marketing World,
Yes.
I heard about this event. And I went to San Diego for the first time ever. And I was like, oh my gosh, all these thought leaders and all these people that I'm aspiring to be like and follow, I want to create connections with them. So I decided, instead of trying to just like say, hey, here's what I do, here's my business card, here's where to follow me. Instead, I invited them to a s'mores night on the 5th floor of the Hyatt, which the conference was hosted at, and invited them to have a s'mores night with me, because what's more Midwest than s'mores? And we hosted a s'mores night. The first night it was like 4 people, and then the second night there was like 24 people, and that we all did s'mores and hung out and got to know one another and built relationships. And then Social Media Week Lima was born right after that.
Love it.
And you did it for year after year. I mean, it became an annual tradition. So that's why I think of it. Yeah.
It has. Yes, for sure.
Very good. Well, listen, so I'm especially excited about this episode, both for the audience, but also for myself. You know, I just had my event, and I'm planning my next one for Q1. So I think I'm going to get a lot of knowledge out of this that's going to make mine especially better. And I know you've done a ton of events and you've got a deep knowledge here. So I guess we could say we're not in Kansas anymore, right?
Well, I am in Kansas, but since you're
One
not,
of
we'll go
us
there.
is anyway. But we will be following the yellow brick road down to your wisdom on this topic. I wanted to open up with something that I think is probably going to give us a lot of funny stories in addition to a lot of wisdom. And that is, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see people make when they're doing an event?
I was afraid you were going to ask me mistakes that I've made, which I can tell plenty of those stories too. I think one of the mistakes that I see people making, and I'll tell a story about myself in this, is we plan the event for ourselves instead of for the people that we're trying to attract. So one of the examples for me is I'm a jazz saxophonist, which if people stick around, you'll find out about that at the end of this episode. So as a jazz saxophonist, my thought in the early years of our event, and Jessica, you can testify to this, is jazz is a great background music for networking, like instrumental music in general. I think you don't want words that people recognize because you pull people out of a conversation. So my thought was, hey, jazz is great. I'm a jazz saxophonist. I know people in San Diego because I used to live there who are jazz musicians. So I pulled a band together, and that's what we did for maybe 3 or 4 years until I started hearing a preponderance of feedback, not just from staff, because I kind of ignored the staff. But you don't know what you're talking about. I'm a musician. You're not. But when I started seeing the feedback of that's not quite our vibe, I began paying attention. And this, when I started the conference, I didn't know what I know today. Like I could not have written a book about events in 2013. I've learned so much by doing it. Yes, I've got tons of experience prior to that I started seeing how it all converged. So I began paying attention and realized, you know what? The people coming to this event don't look like me. They're younger and they're women. and they don't necessarily listen to jazz. They're listening to other music. So I began paying attention to that and shifted my perspective on, I'm not designing this event for what I want. I'm designing it for the Jessicas of the world. I'm designing it for her younger sister. Our ideal audience is somewhere between 30 and 60, and it's a woman who's a marketer. I'm not a marketer. So, I know a lot about marketing, but I'm not technically a marketer. So I think that's maybe the first and biggest mistake that people make is designing an event for themselves instead of for their audience, unless you're exactly who the event is for.
Love that. Love that. And have been witness to that. And you've honestly created a recipe. So one of the things I did not mention is that you're a best-selling author of your book, Unforgettable, talking about events where you kind of talk about the recipe of creating memorable experiences. And while I started with s'mores, you've even taught me more by not only attending some of the events that you've helped craft and deliver for social media marketing world and other events, and even Social Media Week Lima that you've spoken at. But can you kind of deliver that recipe, if you will, for the audience here?
Yeah. So I relate this to baking bread. So I don't know, Jeremy, if you've ever baked a loaf of bread. I'm assuming, Jessica, that you have. Anyone who has a recipe can learn how to bake a loaf of bread, even if it's in a bread machine. There's only 4 main ingredients, and you just have to know the right ratio and how to mix it. And so those 4 ingredients are flour, water, salt, and yeast. And if you know the right ratio of those ingredients, you can make at least an average loaf of bread. Now, the loaves that we all eat have more than those 4 ingredients, but set that aside. So in an event, it's the same thing. So what I like to say is a 12-year-old can learn to bake a loaf of bread. A first-time event owner can create an event. It probably won't be great. You're probably not going to enter it into the state fair contest or put it into a gourmet Michelin restaurant your first time round, right? Same thing is true with events. The flour is like your content. Who are you bringing to speak? What are they speaking about? Is this the right kind of flour for this event? The water is communication. Are you letting people in on what's going on at the event? Or are they having to figure it out for themselves? And I'll come back to that in just a minute. The yeast is the networking. It's the connections. It's how well are we bringing people together? Is that elevating the event, or are they just all disparate and there's really not any kind of rising taking place? And then the salt that's the spice. That's the things that are unique about your event. Now, coming back to water, if you don't have enough water in baking a loaf of bread, all the ingredients start to clump and it doesn't make one cohesive loaf. And I did a live experiment at a conference one time, just because I didn't have enough time to do it for yours. Or did I? Did I try it at your event? I don't remember, but there was an event where I had plenty of time. So I did it and didn't realize that I didn't have enough water. So I'm there mixing all these ingredients together and realizing this isn't working. And someone in the audience said, "Phil, that's brilliant." And I said, "Yes, of course it is. Why is it so brilliant to you?" And what we realized is if you don't have enough water, then it does not all cohese. And so you've got people who are left on the outskirts. They have no idea what's going on. They're confused. They leave. So those ingredients, when you put them together, it helps you to evaluate. Do I have the right kind of content? Do people here want to eat whole wheat bread, or do they want white bread, or do they want rye, or what do they want? Do I have the right content? Do I have enough communication going on? Am I doing it in the right place? Maybe they want to learn about it through text, maybe through the app, maybe it's through email, maybe it's through a group, wherever you have it. Is the spice the right kind of spice? Is it the right kind of music? Do I have the lighting the way that they want? Which, by the way, you guys have very similar lighting backgrounds. So that's designed. It's on brand for you, right? And I know that Jessica uses that kind of lighting for her event. So that's like the spice. And then the yeast. Are we helping people get to know each other? People go to events today, not so much for the content. Yes, that's what they tell the boss. And yes, they want to learn. But let's be honest, I can go to YouTube. I can go online. I can ask AI how to do something. I'm going to this event because I can meet Jeremy. I can meet Jessica. I can find that person that I need to do business with, learn from, go to a s'more party with, right? So those are the 4 basic ingredients, Jessica, that I talk about and I've learned. And so there's a lot of others we could pay attention to, such as the crew. I have a C thing going here. The people who are on your staff, how are they coming together? The outcome of all this is, what's the culture of your event? Is this a festive event? Is this 100%. More of a studied event, like for engineers? Is this a fun, playful environment? All those things matter. So I'll stop and let you guys ask questions.
Oh, I love everything you're saying. And I know Jeremy probably has questions, but I just want to echo everything that you just said, because everything is very intentional. Like, we don't have the, bright lights above. The lighting at all of our events is like this, that's in my background, or like Jeremy's background. We have circle tables because we want people to feel like they're connected instead of just sitting in a classroom type setting. Like, we want those moments to feel connected, and that does make an impact. So there are intentional decisions besides just interviewing speakers and sponsors of who's aligned with hosting an event and bringing them into your circle. Like, you want to make sure that first you, as I say all the time, starting from the inside out, like, what is your intention first? Who do you want to bring in that aligns with your intentions? Your team members, your community, your collaborators, all of those people, and create this environment where now you can have this ripple effect. And that's what we do, again, at Social Media Week Lima, what you guys do at Social Media Marketing World and Social Media Examiner. Love everything that you're talking about, Phil. But yes, every one of those decisions is intentional. The music, to the lighting, to the seating, to who you're bringing in to the stage, not just to promote themselves, but also to speak to the community in a way that's going to be not something that they can just watch on YouTube, because yes, they can get that, or chat GPT, as you mentioned, or AI, whatever, and get the information, but it has an emotional effect on them that's going to have this ripple that they're going to bring back to the office and potentially create, more energy around whatever their initiative is.
Yeah, let me add one more thing to what you're saying, which I agree with all of that. You have to be intentional. You have to know who you're doing this for. The sea of communication, one mistake people make is waiting till they get there or sending one email prior to the event.
100%.
And it might be 2 days before you get that one email and you might have missed it. You need to help people start connecting and communicate with them, at least a couple weeks, if not a couple months, depending on the size and magnitude of your event and when people are signing up. That's how you prepare them. So I know, Jessica, you're all about building relationships with people.
100%.
If they're showing up cold, you're having to get to know them once they walk in the door. It's a lot harder. If they show up already knowing people and feeling like, I know what I want to learn. I know some people I want to sit with. I have some idea as a speaker of, hey, there's this culture of things to go to. I know there's places that people go at your event. We always do breakfast here. We always do this here. If I don't know that stuff, I'm showing up feeling like an outsider. So you want them
and
to
that's
feel
why
like
we keep the group live all year long. Social
Yes.
Media with Lima group, we keep active all year long. And we do welcome intros. So people know this stuff, right? And they already know where to go and how to connect with people. 100%. Because it is about not feeling like an outsider. Even the introverts, the most introverted introverts still come and speak at the event and want to come back and feel like that now they have this sense of belonging because they've met their tribe, right? And then they didn't feel like an outsider.
Precisely.
I love that. One of the things you were talking about was, communicating leading up to the event. Definitely want to dig into that. But before we move to that, I want to ask you about something that you were talking about kind of creating the experience and specifically creating something memorable within the event. So something I've done before is I've planted certain questions or certain funny things, scripted in things. Jess, you saw one of them. What are some of the ways, Phil, that you see have been effective in creating something that's really memorable, really gets the audience engaged and keeps people talking about it after the event?
It's looked different every year, but do something that's unexpected. So year 3, I think it was, we did a industrial musical is what it's called technically, but we did a musical after Michael Stelzner's opening keynote where we were basically making announcements without making announcements. And it was very unexpected. People talked about it. The people who'd walked out of the room wished that they hadn't. The last several years, our MC, Leslie Samuel, we've collaborated on creating an introduction for Mike's opening keynote that is memorable. One year he showed up as Neo from The Matrix. One year he was Buzz Lightyear, and Chad Peterson, who comes to your event as the MC, was Woody. And so the pictures from that are very shareable. The moment is, some people might think it's, oh, why are we doing that? But it definitely gets your attention. So doing things that are unexpected, I think right from the beginning, when they walk in the door, how do you make them feel welcome? And you don't want to overwhelm people when they first show up. You want them to kind of get to know you before you do something that's over the top, but even just fun little signs that gets them to smile and share, having things that they take pictures with. Jessica, you have one year you had cookies made in the face of speakers, and that was incredibly shareable.
Also, we do bobbleheads for all the speakers as their speaker gift.
I need a link to where you got those done, Jess. That's awesome.
Yeah, I've got mine.
Yes, I will. You have yours, Phil?
Oh yeah, I totally have mine here. So after the conference, Owen left his with you, and so we took it home and we had so much fun with it. Things like that, things that become little jokes, little things that people, some of them are expected, you've planned it Some of them you're spontaneous and you go with it in the moment. I like to say the ways to get to unforgettable is make something that's memorable. And that means it's unexpected, it's unusual. You're combining things that are normal, like the Savannah Bananas do, and you're making something that's new because of the context. Then it's also meaningful because you know your audience, you know what's going to connect with them and how to serve them. You're thinking about the journey that they're having. And then finally, it's memorable, meaningful, and momentous. You're paying attention to those moments that actually matter. So not every moment is equal in importance. So you're paying attention to what those moments are. And one that I think a lot of events miss that makes an event feel disconnected is they're not paying attention to the transitions, the margins. I like to call it the mortar that holds the bricks together. Like we do all our planning. I want Jessica to speak about this. I want Jeremy to speak about this. I want Chad. But what's happening in between that creates that sense of connection? Is it awkward? I don't know what to do now. Or is it really clear? You've helped me connect with someone. You've made sense out of what the whole event is about.
I love that. And I love like you talking about Jesse from Savannah Bananas, because I remember him the first year and meeting him because we were both wearing yellow and bright yellow at that event at Social Media Marketing World. And so we both stood out. But I think this recipe, if you will, goes way beyond just events. Like this should be like business practice across every industry. Like you definitely need to create these memorable experiences that clients want to share, they want to talk about, they want to implement into their business, and also create this, like you said, memorable experience. I would like to even extend it to say craveable, where people want to come back and keep getting more because they want to share it on. They want to taste that recipe again and again, and also implement it into whatever they're doing and keep it going, because you guys do this so well at Social Media Marketing World. Like I know when I went there, like it was the networking bingo for me. When I first went, my very first year, that was one of the things that I took for Social Media Week Lima was Social Media Marketing World's bingo, networking bingo, where you got to meet people and you could check off like different people that you met and could engage with, and that they checked off like a bingo card slot for you. But it was a way to engage outside of just having, like you said, the speakers after speaker after speaker, or in between. It's thinking about the audience that is attending and the sponsors and everyone else, not just speakers and getting ticket sales.
Absolutely. You talk about building relationships. I think you're wanting to build fans. Pat Flynn talks about that. Brittany Hodick, I think it's Hodick, talks about it. Like you're trying to get people come and love this community so much, have such great experiences that they can't help but keep talking about it. And those things make them realize, I want to come back and wonder what else will they do? Like what more will they do next year? And I can't help but want to be there because this is like you said, it's my tribe. So I think when we create those experiences well, that works for a brand. It's like, oh, I'm loyal to this brand and I'm not paying as much attention to price. So you think like Buc-ee's, if you've got Buc-ee's anywhere in your world of gasoline, like you don't go there just to buy gas. You go there because of the experience that they're creating. If you wanted just to buy gas, you stop at the local store that might have the cheapest price. But if you create an experience where people like, this is my community, I love going there because they've got this special thing that I can only get there. I can only go to Jessica's s'more party. I can only do this when I go to this event, or this brand does things that I just love. Like, I don't know if Nordstrom still does this, but they used to have personal shoppers where they would help you design your wardrobe. And where else does that, where they get to know you and your tastes and your colors and the things that you're doing. And now I've got a personalized wardrobe. Like, can you do that as a brand? What can you do that stands out that people will tell their friends about and make them want to keep coming back to you instead of anywhere else? Jeremy, you're muted.
All right, there we go. Tech issues seem to be resolved. Phil, talk a little bit about what you were saying earlier about the conversation leading up to the event. I know that was definitely an area in my own event that I definitely dropped the ball and was not as effective as I should be. And I've seen that in a lot of other events that I've been a member or an attendee or whatever of. So what is your advice for getting that right? What's too much? What's too little? All of that.
Well, you have to experiment with your community. I don't know if there's a right formula for every event of what's too much, but it's probably more than you're doing right now. So go to the point where you're uncomfortable and it's probably getting to be close to the right amount. It's like they talk about with vision, that the leader needs to talk about vision until they're sick of it because they haven't heard it. But as much as you have. So we start communicating about 3 months out. And but have a plan of the things that we want to talk about leading up to the event, knowing that not everybody's going to read them because people are signing up after that and they're not even paying attention to the emails. But what we hear in retrospect is, man, I felt so well prepared. We rarely hear people say they talked too much because they aren't paying attention. We do send like all the information you need to know the week before, and you need to have that in your plan. That's what people try to do. But if you only send one email with like 10,000 words, that's an extreme, but it feels like that. People aren't going to read that. So we try to drip little pieces of information. But the other part of it is build a community. So Jessica and I both build Facebook groups. That doesn't have to be where it is. For a social media event, it kind of makes sense because everybody's on Facebook and they know what groups are like. Is it the best? No. But is it at least serviceable? Yes. You may want to pay for a separate place, but then you lose out on people not wanting to leave their browser. It's like, I want to go to another app that I'm only going to use for this event? So you have to kind of think through that. But if you help people start to connect in some kind of community, and you have an intentional strategy of communicating that's cross platforms. So literally this week, we're designing our plan for next year that primarily is focused on email and the Facebook group. We don't use text messages. Some events use SMS. We don't, because that's a whole nother thing that you have to consider. But we're looking at what message needs to be said when and where are we going to communicate it? What's the best way to communicate that? And one idea at a time.
That's what we do at Social Media Week Lima, although we already have our speakers for June for next year's event. And we keep our active Facebook group active all year round. And then we have like the, agenda ahead of time. So we already start planning for the year in advance before the previous year has ended. So we already have our theme, all those things. And we have that set up because I've been a speaker at many, many events where it's so frustrating. Jeremy and I were both speakers at an event where, last minute changes. I'm talking like 15-minute last minute changes where it's like, can you guys speak now? And we're like, sure, we're up. We'll do it. But it's way more effective if you have the plan ahead of time and can know what to follow, and not only as a speaker, but also as an attendee, and be in community with everyone else. And so that's why we try to keep the Facebook group and all of our other social channels alive all year round, not just when the event is happening, so people can stay in community and build that rapport and already in, communications with one another, and then also have that plan active. We also built like our own app for Social Media Week Lima, so speakers and attendees can stay connected year after year. But yeah, I'm in full agreement with you, Phil, that definitely communication is some of the biggest hurdle for many, not only speakers, but attendees, because they don't know where to go when, and, what's happening, and who to connect with and all the things. So I think that's really good advice of one of the things that many event organizers, whether you're hosting a big event or even a small event, it's a great way to build relationships, but you also need to be mindful of communication for that.
Yeah, your communication before the event with attendees is a first impression moment. Like first impressions matter a lot. We know that in relationship building when we meet someone in person, like the first, 7 seconds cues you on how you're going to. And I think the first 15 minutes, 30 minutes of an event really does set someone's expectations of what's this going to be like. Well, you can get over some of that if you do a great job in your communication before. And Jessica, you highlighted something that I think is important. You need to have a strategy, not only for attendees, but for your speakers, your sponsors, and your staff, especially if you have volunteers. Like you need to be communicating with each one of those groups and look at it cohesively so that you know where there's overlap. When do I need to share this message with each group? Because a lot of times that's where balls drop. Like, oh, I've been communicating with everybody about this issue, but the staff doesn't realize. And you assume, this is again back to, did you design for yourself? You have all this knowledge. You think everybody else has it. And if you haven't been over communicating it, and it feels like you're over communicating it, then others may or may not know, or it may not have resonated with them because you needed to share it another way. So I think that's an important thing is speakers need their own form, and each individual speaker needs their own form because some of them aren't paying attention and you didn't realize they don't read emails. You need to text them or you need to DM them. Like ask that question, Jeremy, if you've got speakers, literally ask, how do you like to be communicated agreement?
Like, how do you best prefer to be spoken to? Yeah. Or do we need to copy someone else in? And we also have partnered with the university to have an internship program. And I know we're at time right now, but internship program where the university students can help volunteer, and we train them all year long so they can help volunteer at the event and use that for internship credits, which is amazing. So it helps them, helps us. It's a win-win.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So Phil, you had a little musical instrument thing you were going to do here for us before we wrapped up.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you guys something, and I didn't even tell you about this in advance, but I'd like each one of you to give me 2 words that stand out from this conversation and make one of them have an emotional component to it. So Jessica, let's start with you.
2 words?
2 words.
Meaningful relationships.
Meaningful relationships. All right, Jeremy.
Memorable experiences.
Memorable experiences. All right, here we go. I'm going to just play a little bit, and I might need to play a note or 2 to make sure it's working. All right.
That is awesome.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being on The Long Game. It's the last show of 2025, but we will be back in 2026 on January 6th with Jeremy Vest. Phil, cannot wait to have you back, though, I'm sure, because you are a wealth of knowledge, and can't wait to have you not only back on The Long Game, but hopefully at Social Media Week Lima 2026 as well. And for all of you, thank you so much for watching this live show, as well as if you want the link to the long game recap blog will be dropping it live tomorrow on Now Marketing Group's website. I will post a link here shortly, but thank you all. Have a happy holiday season. Thanks, Phil.
I
Merry Christmas.
encourage everyone who's watching to go look Phil up and connect with him online before we wrap up. And Merry
100%.
Christmas, everyone.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.